Hello, everyone. My name is Mike, and this is the Bored Cyborg. Welcome back to another episode of What's in the Bag, which is a series where I basically go through the films that I've picked up on DVD or Blu-ray or VHS over the last couple weeks and talk about each one and why I picked it up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's jump right into the movies I picked up. It was quite a few this week. I did some shopping once I got my tax return. And I'm going to go through the DVDs first, which is the larger stack. And then lastly, I'm going to go over the Blu-rays. So let's jump right in. Now, I picked up a bunch of films from a shop here in North Carolina called Second and Charles. It's a secondhand shop that has everything that you could imagine in terms of media and art. It's got comic books, it's got movies, it's got games, it's got books. It's that kind of shop, and it's huge. They have thousands of movies. They have thousands of movies. You know, I went there and got a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of trade credit. And then I went to another pawn shop in the area called Trade It, where, again, they have thousands of movies, and I always find cool stuff. So the first film I picked up is The Ref. This is a Denis Leary film from the mid-90s. I don't know much about it, but it has been recommended to me by multiple people, and I do want to check it out. I like Denis Leary. Kevin Spacey's in it as well. So, and it's a Ted Demme film. I have high hopes for this movie. I think it's going to be very good, and I've heard it's kind of a pseudo-Christmas comedy in the same way that Die Hard is a pseudo-Christmas action film. But yeah, that is The Ref, and yeah, Judy Davis too. I like Judy Davis. So this should be a fun one. Yeah. The next film, whoa, voice crack. The next film is William Mesa's Galaxis. William Mesa is a director I am familiar with. He did only one other film, and that one was DNA with Mark Dacascos from 1997. It's kind of a Predator ripoff. It's very derivative, not that great. Kind of a cool creature, and it's just cool to see Mark Dacascos in a creature feature because I do like him. But yes, this is Galaxis. I don't know much about it. It looks like a futuristic Blade Runner type world here. It's definitely sci-fi. And it stars Bridget Nielsen, and she has huge guns, both in this picture and an even bigger gun on the back there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It also has some warlock-looking guy that looks like he's about to reuse somebody in the face. That cover is just gloriously bad. Bridget Nielsen, sci-fi flick from 95, directed by William Mesa. Got it for under $1. Had to pick it up. And moving into some horror here, it's not in any particular order, so it's all over the place. This is a Frankenstein film directed by Calvin Floyd, who did a Dracula film around the same time. This film came out in '76, and I really don't know too much about it, but anytime there's a Frankenstein film that I haven't seen, I tend to pick it up, because I have a ever-growing Frankenstein collection dating back to, Universal Frankensteins. I don't have Edison's, but I do want it. Now, I hear this one, and I've read that this one is very faithful to the novel. That interests me. I love the story of Frankenstein, so I had to pick this up. Again, this was less than $1. You can't go wrong. So, Terror of Frankenstein. True terror can be created. Oof. That's a bad tagline. The next film is by a director, again, that I'm somewhat familiar with. His name is Rene Cardona Jr., and he directed a film called Tintorera, which is, I guess, the Spanish answer to Jaws. I've yet to see it. It's very out of print. It's in the collection over there. So this is Night of a Thousand Cats, directed by Rene Cardona. I have to point out, Second and Charles plasters these barcodes all over the box, which sucks. I mean, I could replace the case, but it just pisses me off. Yeah, I don't know much about this film. It's from 1972. That's all I need to know. Horror film from 72 from Spain. Yes, sir. I'm in. And, wow. 63 minutes long. It's f***ing short as shit. That's barely a feature. The next film is by a director that I do like quite a bit, Lamberto Bava, who is the son of Mario Bava, who is a horror icon. He did films like Black Sabbath and Black Sunday. Some of the greatest horror films from the 60s. This is by his son, Lamberto, and it is a sequel in name to Demons 1 and Demons 2, which are some of my favorite zombie movies from the 80s. They're just a blast to watch with great atmosphere, which Lamberto got definitely from his father. That's one thing Lamberto does very well, and not quite as good as his father, but damn near close, is create an atmosphere, a nice thick atmosphere, and I'm hoping to get that, from this film. Now, this film is called Demons 3: The Ogre, so in typical Italian horror cinema fashion, this is not really a sequel to Demons 1 and 2. They tend to just say that it's a sequel to sell more of the film, of any particular film. This has happened with the Zombie series in Italy, and even like the Evil Dead series. There's some weird stuff going on with that. Mostly in Europe this happens, not only in Italy. But yeah, this is The Ogre, Demons 3, and I can't wait to check this out. As long as it has a practical ogre running around killing people, I am in, and if it doesn't, well, then it's false advertising. The next film is a film that I've wanted to check out for quite some time. That is Bastard Swordsman. This is a Shaw Brothers film from 1982 that I hear is fantastic, up there with some of the best of the Shaw Brothers movies, and I do have a growing martial arts collection. I mean, it probably 300 or 400 films. A lot of those are Shaw Brothers because they were the kings of the martial arts movies in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So this is Bastard Swordsman. Really hard to find this movie. It's not on Blu-ray, at least in this country. And this DVD is quite out of print and goes for quite a bit. I got it for, again, less than $1 at the pawn shop. It's in really good shape. So that is Bastard Swordsman. The next film I got really excited me when I stumbled across it at the pawn shop amidst the thousands of shitty movies and movies that I see a billion times over. And that is Gnaw, Food of the Gods Part 2. This movie seems like it's definitely out of print. There's a listing for it on Amazon, but nobody was selling it. And I couldn't find much information on it, but it is a legit copy, obviously here, released by Artisan. And it's Food of the Gods Part 2. The first Food of the Gods I couldn't really get into for the simple fact that they kill a shit ton of rats and mice. I mean, they're like shooting them with BBs and like blowing them up, and they're really dying like on screen, and I don't think anything should die. Any living creature should die for a film. So hopefully they rectify that with more practical effects in this one as opposed to real animals. I'm hoping some regulations were put into place by the time this film was made. We shall see. This came out in '89 and again is a sequel to Food of the Gods, and that's really all I know about it. I am looking forward to it. I hear it's a blast. I hear it's, a fun, cheesy, late 80s movie. This one's directed by Damian Lee. I know that name. The next film is a Marx Brothers film that I did not have hair. And that's called Copacabana, starring Groucho Marx. I don't know if the other Marx Brothers are in it, to be quite honest. This is a later Marx Brothers film. This is from '47. They did a lot of stuff in the 30s, a lot of stuff in the early 40s, but this is definitely one of their later ones. I've only seen a couple Marx Brothers movies, Duck Soup being one of them. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but I do love, the Marx Brothers movies, and I especially love Groucho. I guess Groucho is the main Marx brother. He's the funniest, he's the wittiest, he's the quickest and cleverest, and I really like his style of humor. Very physical too, of course, as were the times. Anyway, that is Copacabana, starring Groucho Marx and Carmen Miranda from 1947, and I'm glad to have this in the Marx Brothers collection. Alright, the next thing I picked this up for $1, less than $1. Picked it up for one reason: Home Alone 3. Home Alone 3 came out when I was around 9 or 10, and I really loved it as a kid. I loved the slapstick. It was still very slapsticky, maybe even more so than 1 and 2. And, as a kid, I knew it wasn't quite as great as the first two, but I had a blast with it growing up, and I'm hoping that it still holds up to some extent. This one stars Alex Linz, and it is actually written by John Hughes. Not a lot of people know that this Home Alone 3 is actually written by John Hughes, just like the first two are. This set also has Home Alone Taking Back the House, which I remember trying to watch when I was in my teens, and it was abysmal, like real bad. And so I didn't really necessarily pick this up for that film. I picked it up for Home Alone 3, but it's in the set, so now I own all of the Home Alone films. No, actually, there's another one that was like a Disney Channel piece of shit. Anyway, I own the 3 that matter, and that's all that matters. Moving on. A random comedy I picked up at the pawn shop, Last Resort, starring Charles Grodin. I recently rewatched Midnight Run and talked about it in a previous What I've Watched episode, and I love Charles Grodin's work. I loved him in Beethoven, of course. I grew up with Beethoven as the father. This one has John Lovitz as well, Phil Hartman, bunch of people. John Ashton, Mario Van Peebles, or Peebles. This film came out in '85, so it's pretty early for all of these actors. and don't know much about it besides it's a comedy from '85. So, I like '80s comedies. I like Charles Grodin. We'll give it a whirl. The next film is Ida. I don't know much about it. I know it's a Polish film, and I know it's called Ida. So I do watch dramas on occasion. I don't discriminate films. I have films that I gravitate towards and films that I challenge myself with. And so I picked up this. This was one of the free movies I picked up. The pawn shop does buy 5, get 2 free, and they're $1 anyway, so it's like all these come to under $1. But that's Gosford Park. Don't know much about this film, but it seems to me like a class-based version of Clue, but it's more serious and British and political. So I want to give it a whirl. I know it got a lot of talk from the Academy in the early 2000s, and I remember seeing it all over the place, and nobody really talks about it anymore. It's a Robert Altman film, and I do want to check it out. So, Gosford Park. Cheers. So, if you've watched my previous What I've Watched videos, or collection videos, you know I'm a big fan of BBC Earth and anything that they put out. I'm a big fan of nature documentaries. So, I was disappointed to see that Earth, One Amazing Day does not have David Attenborough as the narrator, but it does have Robert Redford, so we'll see how that plays out. I believe this is on Blu-ray, but the DVD will suffice. I do prefer to watch, well, anything on Blu-ray really, but especially the BBC Earth stuff. But yeah, that is Earth, One Amazing Day, with a nice beat-up slipcover. Alright, so the next film is a film I watched when I was much younger, and I had a really shitty, dark copy of it, picture-wise. Dark, in terms of picture quality. And I didn't like the film. I thought that was how the film was supposed to be. I thought that's how Tobe Hooper intended it to be, but that is not the case, because judging by the screenshots on the back, it's so much more well-lit than I remember. I love the setting. I hope I can get into this film, next time I watch it. It's a film from '81. Tobe Hooper did Texas Chainsaw and then Eaten Alive, and I believe this was his next film. He may have had something in between there. I'm not sure off the top of my head. That is Funhouse. This does have a Blu-ray by Scream Factory, and I will upgrade if I enjoy the movie. Dwindling down here on the DVDs. This is another drama, Beckett. This is a 60s film starring Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole. I don't know anything about. I know it's based on a stage play. It does interest me. This is definitely challenging me in terms of what I tend to watch, but I do want to give it a whirl. I like the two actors quite a bit, and yeah, this one's directed by Peter Glenville. Not sure what else he's done. That is Beckett, and the case is falling apart, so I need to get another case. The next movie I got at Goodwill, I think it was, and it caught my eye simply because it's a science fiction film from the 90s. In specific, 94. Has nobody that I recognize in terms of actors, except for Grace Jones and Robert Hayes. Grace Jones and Robert Hayes. Robert Hayes from Airplane, Grace Jones from Vamp. The next movie, or the next series, OVA, I picked up was Otaku no Video. I'm a big anime fan. Basically, I watch stuff from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. I haven't branched too much further out from there. I do like Cowboy Bebop and some things from the later 90s, early 2000s, but they're all of the anime I watch is either sci-fi or action or fantasy, and I really don't go outside of those genres, and I really should. So this is one of my first forays into trying to get into other genres. This is comedy. Just pretty much a straight comedy about a kid who gets ingrained in the anime culture and spirals into madness or something. It's like a satire, So I want to check this out. Otaku no Video. Picked this up for really cheap on eBay, like $6. The guy, I threw him an offer and he accepted. So I'm excited to have this, and I love the cover. The cover's great, looks fun, and I can't wait to check this out. So Otaku no Video. So I'm not going to talk about these too much and just show you. This is the Young Justice. It's not all of the series. It's like Season 1, Part 2, and then, I don't know. It's a whole bunch of episodes, 30 episodes or so, 40 episodes. It's a series that, I've been wanting to check out. I hear it's fantastic. I don't really watch too many animated films in the last 15 years, or animated series in the last 15 years or so, but I do want to check this out because I do like what DC is doing with their animated universes. Young Justice. Got a good chunk of the series here. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. So this will get me started. And I saved the most important DVD for last. I was looking at my Nickelodeon collection recently, and I realized that, man, I don't have any Rugrats. And Rugrats was one of my favorites growing up. This, Ren and Stimpy, Ah Real Monsters, Doug, these are shows that I grew up with that, Hey Arnold, that totally helped mold who I was to become, who I am today. Honestly. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Rugrats is a wonderful show, and it still holds up so beautifully with unique animation by Claspy Supo, which is a name that is ingrained in my head after seeing it, countless times while watching Rugrats in the 90s. And it really is still such a magical show because it's all about seeing the world through innocent eyes, the eyes of a child, and how they interpret the world. And so many things, stuck with me over the years. Lemonade and, some of the words that Tommy pronounces incorrectly. Things like that just stuck with me over the years. I watched a few episodes the other night, and man, I was in nostalgia heaven. And it's a wonderful thing when that happens. I love Rugrats. I need to at least pick up the first 5-6 seasons or so. Once it starts going into All Grown Up or All Grown Up, I really lost interest, maybe because I was getting older and they were trying to appeal, to my demographic getting older. Didn't really dig it. But Rugrats is still wonderful. Tommy Pickles, Chucky Finster, Phil and Lil, Angelica, and the gang. Love Rugrats so much. I have goosebumps. Alright, so that does it for the DVDs, and we're going to get into, it's a small stack of Blu-rays. I got about 7 Blu-rays here, and I'll go through them. So the first film I picked up from Disney Rewards program was Bolt. Bolt stars John Travolta, I believe, as the voice of Bolt, and this is a Walt Disney animated feature. In the same ranks as, not quality-wise, but Aladdin and Lion King and Snow White, all those. So this is part of that series. And that's why I had to pick it up, because I want to have a complete Walt Disney Animated Pictures collection. This one is supposed to be decent, better than Chicken Little, so I do want to check this out at some point, but it was really, I got it for free off Disney Amazon or Disney Rewards, and just to basically add to the collection and get some more points. So that is Bolt. I will definitely check this out at some point in my life. Alright, the next film is a Chuck Norris canon film released by Kino, Delta Force 2. Now, I have seen Delta Force 1. I am a fan of Delta Force 1, but I'm an even bigger fan of Chuck Norris. Motherfucking Chuck. I grew up with Chuck Norris during the 90s, obviously Walker, Texas Ranger, all of his stuff in the 80s and early 90s I grew up watching with my father. You can't go wrong with Chuck Norris's dry delivery and super questionable machismo and unbelievable martial arts skill. I love Chuck Norris, and I'm sure this will be a blast. This one was directed by his brother Aaron Norris, and like I said, it is a canon film, and I have yet to see a canon film that I dislike. That is Delta Force 2, John P. Ryan, Richard Jekyll, and Billy Drago as Ramon Cota, a drug lord, who I'm assuming is the villain. Delta Force 2, can't wait to check that out on the Blue. That rhymed. The next film I picked up, I actually talked about in a previous What I've Watched. I watched it on DVD, and I found it for cheap at a pawn shop, and upgraded to the Blu-ray. That is Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox. This is a time travel story involving Batman and the Flash and a lot of other DC animated universe characters. I'm not going to talk about it because I already did. I love this movie. It's a great DC animated film, one of the best I've seen, and it's time travel and action, and it's great. Check it out if you like DC animated movies or animated movies in general. The next film I picked up, I started watching on DVD last week, and I felt like I was sinning. So I stopped the DVD and picked up the Blu-ray. Have yet to open it and watch it, but that is Addams Family, a film that I grew up with in the 90s. I watched over and over and over again, along with Addams Family Values. We don't talk about the third one, which I think is called Reunion. Barry Sonnenfeld did the first one and Addams Family Values, and they are both fantastic. I don't think the second one is on Blu-ray, which is really shitty. Addams Family is still impressive in terms of its humor and its technical aspects. One thing that really impressed me when I started watching the DVD was Thing, the disembodied hand. The effect is so perfect. The camera work is perfect, showing Thing kind of scurrying around, and I know how they did it, but it just looks so damn good and flawless and really surprised me. But I love this movie. My favorite scene is when Wednesday and Pugsley are doing the talent show, and it's super macabre, and their limbs are being chopped off in a duel they're having, and the blood is just arterial spraying everywhere like it's a Shaw Brothers movie. That scene always stuck with me and made me laugh. One of the earliest times I remember laughing at violence in a film. So, thanks, Addams Family. Alright, the next film I picked up is a modern film. A film from last year that I adore. And that is called Mandy, starring Nick Cage, directed by Panos Cosmatos, the son of George Cosmatos, who did Tombstone and Of Unknown Origin and Leviathan, some great films from the 80s that I love. Cobra with Sly. So his son did Beyond the Black Rainbow a few years ago, which I did enjoy, but it was a little uneven and a little misguided, I thought. But man, he brings it all home with Mandy, and I can't wait to see what this dude has next. Nick Cage is Nick Cage as in this movie. He is turned up to 11, and when shit hits the fan, he has a scene that is just transcendent. Nick Cage is all over the place, and I don't want to spoil it, that's why I'm treading careful ground here. But this film is essentially about a cult who piss Nick Cage off, I'll say, and he rampages through the second half of this movie. There is a chainsaw fight. Enough said. The next film is another film from my childhood, from '96, Stephen King's Thinner, starring Robert John Burke, who is most well known for the classic RoboCop 3, which I actually don't mind. A lot of people fucking hate that movie. I don't think it's that bad. Fred Dekker film. Anyway, Thinner is awesome. Thinner's about an obese man who gets a hex put on him, and he starts losing drastic weight. Once he gets to a suitable weight, he continues to lose that weight. And so he essentially begins to vanish. And it's a very Stephen King story, and it's a great little cautionary story that I have a lot of fond memories of. And this one is still sealed. I bought it as used, but got it brand new. So that can't go wrong with that, and it was trade credit, so I didn't spend a dime. So I'm glad to have this by Olive Films. I can now get rid of my DVD, my shitty DVD, in favor of this wonderful... I love this cover, too. Look at that cover. It's great. It's weird, but it's great. Thinner, from '96. And last but not least, probably my favorite film of the lot, if not my favorite piece that I picked up in the last couple weeks here. And that is Dagon, released by Vestron. This is a Stuart Gordon film. This is an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft story called Shadow over Innsmouth. And Stuart Gordon is the king of H.P. Lovecraft adaptations. He did Reanimator most famously, From Beyond, and Dagon. And really Dagon kind of rounds out his H.P. Lovecraft adaptation trilogy. He's done other movies that are inspired by and very Lovecraftian, like Castle Freak, things like that. Whoa, I'm okay. Dagon is just one of my favorite films by him. This film came out in 2001, and I saw it about 10 years ago or so, 8 to 10 years ago, and it blew me away and really disturbed me. Definitely has dark humor like Reanimator and From Beyond, but some scenes are really disturbing, and so he balances that dark humor really well with the dread of what's going on in this little island town. Basically, it involves fishmen and underwater gods and people being tortured and just madness. Fishmen running around with shanks. It's fantastic. It's Lovecraftian as shit. You can't go wrong with Dagon. If you like horror, if you like Lovecraft, you gotta check out Dagon. Doesn't really have anybody that I'm familiar with in terms of actors. A lot of Spanish actors, it seems, but Ezra Gooden is the lead here, and he reminds me a lot of... He's kind of a cross between Herbert West and... I can't remember the character's name from Reanimator. Herbert West and his apprentice. Sort of a cross between those two. And he's great in it. Dagon is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I am glad to have this in the collection. I can get rid of my DVD and enjoy this wonderful Blu-ray with a fantastic cover. And that is it for what I picked up in the last couple weeks. Forgive me, it was quite a bit. Hopefully I didn't bore you all. But let me know what films out of the ones I showed you enjoy the most. If there are any films you have anything to say about, feel free to leave those in the comments below and we can get a little dialogue going on that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little bell for notifications if you want to see more videos like it. Reviews are really the foundation of the channel. I have bigger ideas. I have a short film on the channel currently, and I want to do more short films, but I also do pickup videos that I call What's in the Bag, and a video journal that I call What I've Watched, which catalogs what I watched in the previous week or so. Stay tuned for all of that. Anyways, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg out. I can't feel my legs.